Before October 7th, life for many in southern Israel was about simple, predictable rhythms. Communities like the kibbutzim were built on a dream of peace. Kids played in the streets, families gathered for holidays, and life felt safe. That world vanished in a few short hours. The attack was a storm of violence. For those taken hostage, the nightmare was only just beginning. Dragged from their homes into Gaza, they were thrown into a world of darkness and terror. The journey was brutal, but what came next was worse. Released hostages have brought back stories of almost unimaginable cruelty. A common thread in their accounts is the deliberate use of starvation. Hostages talk about being bound for days, so tightly that their hands went numb. Food wasn't just scarce, it was a weapon. Water was rationed to enforce control. The physical pain was a constant. Beatings were routine. But the torture went deeper than just brutality. Some survivors have described being branded with hot metal, a mark of ownership burned into their skin. The UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict found clear and convincing information that hostages were subjected to sexual violence, including rape and sexualized torture, while in captivity. These reports, backed by medical professionals, describe systematic acts of degradation designed to shatter a person's soul. Medical care wasn't just denied, it was weaponized. Hostages with chronic diseases had their medicine taken away. Those with wounds from the attack were left to fester. There are even harrowing accounts from survivors of crude surgeries being performed without anesthesia, a form of torment designed to leave scars both inside and out. The goal was clear: inflict the most pain possible and destroy all hope. The psychological trauma was just as bad. Survivors speak of the terror of isolation, the daily fear of being executed, and the crushing weight of guilt for those who were freed while others remained. For the roughly 100 hostages still in Gaza, this torment is their reality, every single day. Make no mistake, these actions, hostage-taking, torture, sexual violence, are war crimes, designed to terrorize a nation by breaking its people. But this story of suffering, as profound as it is, isn't happening in a vacuum. On the other side of this war, in Israeli detention centers, a parallel story of torment is unfolding. Thousands of Palestinians have been arrested since October, and their testimonies paint a picture of a system where abuse is widespread and the pain is just as real. Since the war began, Israeli forces have detained thousands of Palestinians, not just fighters, but doctors, journalists, workers, and even children. They're often swept up in mass arrests, held with no charge and no access to a lawyer. For many, the moment of arrest was the beginning of a descent into systematic abuse. Human rights groups, from Amnesty International to the UN Human Rights Office, have documented these abuses in detail. Released detainees talk about being beaten so severely and so often it became routine. They describe being hung from ceilings for hours or forced into stress positions designed to inflict agony without leaving a clear mark. Some have reported being electrocuted or attacked by military dogs. Just like with the Israeli hostages, there are documented accounts of sexual violence being used as a tool of torture. The UN has reported on cases of rape and threats of rape against both men and women. Humiliation is a constant, with practices like invasive searches and prolonged forced nudity used to dehumanize detainees. These aren't just interrogation tactics, they're about power and degradation. Medical neglect is a crisis inside these detention facilities. According to Palestinian human rights organizations, over 70 detainees have died in Israeli military custody since October 2023, many from injuries sustained during their treatment or from a lack of medical care. Detainees with serious injuries are reportedly left untreated, leading to infections and sometimes amputations that were preventable. The psychological torture never stops. Sleep deprivation is standard. Interrogations often come with threats against a detainee's family. Some report being forced to make false confessions on camera. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has called the treatment brutal, demanding an end to the arbitrary detention and abuse. For those who finally get out, the trauma doesn't end. They return to their families with broken bodies and haunted minds, forever changed. If you strip away the flags, the uniforms, and all the political justifications, what's left is the universal language of pain. The methods are slightly different, but the goal is identical: to dehumanize, to break, and to assert power by making another person suffer. An Israeli hostage, told they were no longer human. A Palestinian detainee, made to feel like just a body for them to break. In those two statements, you find the dark heart of this conflict. Torture is the ultimate act of dehumanization. It's a way of saying your pain doesn't matter, that your life has no value. The acts committed by Hamas against Israeli hostages, undeniable war crimes under international law. The torture and ill treatment of Palestinian detainees by Israeli forces are also profound violations of the Geneva Conventions and the UN Convention Against Torture, which Israel signed. This isn't about drawing a false equivalence or comparing political goals. It's about staring at a terrifying truth. The capacity for this kind of cruelty exists on both sides. The victims of that cruelty, whether Israeli or Palestinian, share a bond of suffering that is deeper than the conflict that holds them captive. When a mother cries for a child who is tortured, her tears are the same in Tel Aviv as they are in Ramallah. A survivor's trauma isn't measured by their nationality. It's measured in sleepless nights, in phantom pains, and in a faith in humanity that has been completely shattered. Acknowledging this shared pain isn't a political act. It's a human one. It's the first step toward demanding that it stop. If these stories matter, then the conversation has to include them. It can't just be about strategy and borders. It has to be about the people being broken in the process. Refusing to look away is its own form of defiance against the dehumanization that lets torture happen in the first place. Subscribe for more reports that look for the human stories at the center of the news. These stories are a testament to human resilience, but they are also a chilling warning. A conflict where both sides use torture has lost its moral compass. It creates a cycle of trauma and revenge that poisons generations. There is no easy path forward, but it has to begin with the absolute condemnation of torture, no matter who is doing it and no matter who the victim is. It has to begin with seeing the person, not the label. It has to begin with demanding justice for those who have been brutalized and fighting for a future where no one else has to endure their untold torture.